All right. I believe that is our cue to get started here, Jim. So good
Awesome.
morning. Yeah, good morning. Uh, Jim and I are going to be presenting on OpenCloud. So you've already heard a little bit about OpenCloud from David Humes. And in this session, we're really going to dive into a few key components of the solution. So just a little background on your presenters here. So Jim and I have both been with US Signal for quite a long time. I'm the field PTO here at Signal, coming to you live from what we affectionately refer to as the Gator Hole down in Palm Harbor, Florida. And Jim is joining me. Jim, you're in the woodshed, as I understand it, in Grand Rapids.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, so Jim and I are pleased to present to you folks on OpenCloud. We're not going to uh, bury the lead too much here as it relates to OpenCloud. So if you found yourself here for this segment, you're probably curious what it is. And in so many words or less, it's US Signal's answer to the common cloud challenge of today. In our opinion, it's what the market has been missing. Like the name implies, OpenCloud is powered by open source and makes some significant improvements on how private cloud is delivered today. So why should you care? Well, right out of the gate, cost efficiencies that provide immediate ROI for your business. From an infrastructure standpoint, that's going to reduce the risk of budget overruns and gives you a competitive business advantage. Anytime we can lower our operating costs, it frees up dollars to be reinvested in innovation or to go straight to the bottom line, our profit margins. You need to be concerned with design to ensure performance and availability of critical applications, plain and simple. Elasticity without lock-in. So this is what the cloud has always promised us, but in most situations rarely delivers. Better self-service. So we're gonna see that firsthand here in a few minutes, and then a more modern DevOps integration. So these are some of the key benefits of OpenCloud, and we're going to talk throughout the presentation more specifically in all of these areas. Um, I am going to hand it over to Jim. The I am going to hand it over to Jim to go through an OpenCloud demo. So typically in a situation like this, you would see a demo at the end, but we're actually going to skip that and go right into a demo for you folks, give you a glimpse of what OpenCloud looks like. So Jim, when the share is ready for you, I will turn it over to you.
All right. As soon as I'm the presenter here, yep, looks like I am good. And let me actually really quick. Looks like I'm sharing that. Let me share my screen instead. There we go. Let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, we got you.
All right, excellent. Thanks for bearing with me there. All right, so like Pat said, we're not going to bury the lead. We're going to get right into it. And the first thing, every journey has to begin with a first step. And that first step here today is to log in. And what you will notice as I log in is that all access to the OpenCloud Web Console requires MFA. Now, obviously, I have set this up in advance because I am using the environment and I had to set up the demo. But when you go to log in the first time, you'll be prompted to set up MFA. And we have a lot of great documentation around that. More on that in a moment. Now, welcome to US Signal OpenCloud. The first thing that you're going to see here today is the dashboard. And for the purpose of today's presentation and keeping things moving, I'm going to be focusing on deploying instances in OpenCloud and managing them, and also giving you a high-level introduction to OpenCloud as we go. And again, that first step took us to the dashboard. And the dashboard is exactly what it sounds like. It is an at-a-glance view of our consumption inside of OpenCloud. So resources, which include instances, volumes, templates, networks, et cetera, everything you can kind of see here. And you'll hear us talk a fair amount today about self-service. It's one of the keystones that Pat just touched on, right? Self-service is important, but that means that you need those resources available, and you'll notice that you see unlimited available all the way up and down these compute and storage tiers, and even network, right? Um, that doesn't mean that you can't set up guardrails, though. I'm not going to dig into it in too much depth today, but do know that you have the ability to set some boundaries that allow you to control your costs inside of OpenCloud. But we want to get out of your way as much as possible, and that means just allowing you to consume resources as quickly as possible. And to that end, we're just going to start the demonstration off with building a new instance. So I can get to our list of instances by either clicking on instances here under resources or going to compute and seeing instances. Right now I've got a Windows server it'll be coming up a little bit later in the demonstration as I show you around our running instance. But let's just add a new one, and I'll talk through some of the terminology as we go. When you are building a new instance, this kind of goes to the conversation that we've been having all morning so far. A good first place to start is where. Right now in OpenCloud, we have two zones, and I'll talk about what zones are in a few minutes. But right now I'm going to select our Auburn Hills data center. So this is the Auburn Hills zone on the east side of Michigan, and was our first deployment of a cluster of OpenCloud resources. And the next thing I'm going to select is the template I'm going to deploy from. So US Signal provides our customers with access to pre-built templates for both Windows Server and some Linux templates. But the Windows Server templates, especially for our enterprise customers who are particularly interested in benefiting from our SPLA licensing, are just quick, easy, and available. I'm going to spin up a Windows Server 22 instance for demo. Once we've selected the instance, and it's worth noting also that we can deploy our own templates. So if you modify one of these, if you modify an instance, maybe patch it to a level that you're comfortable with, you can templatize that and then deploy additional instances from that. For instance, I've got my own template that I've created for the purpose of just tearing down my demo and rebuilding it. But we'll start from scratch for this one. Next selection is compute offering. So service offerings, which we're going to talk a fair bit about, as we talk about sizing and pricing, are the foundation for allocating resources to any given instance. So in this case, it's most specifically compute and memory. So for this demo, I'll select 4 vCPU with 8 gigs of RAM, but it's important to note that this catalog is extensive. Our product and engineering teams have done an excellent job of doing our best to have a catalog of instance sizes, those t-shirt sizes that we're familiar with from public clouds, that will fit the needs of those workloads. So, much like there is a correct, there's a right home for every instance, every workload, there's a right size for those as well. And as I'm assigning this, it's worth noting that you can, using scaling, which is a tool inside of OpenCloud, adjust that compute offering. So you can adjust the resources once you've deployed an instance. Next up, we can choose the disk size, right? So in this case, the template defaults to 100 gig. We're going to leave it that way. We can override that if we'd like to. We can also add additional disks. So these are additional volumes for the purpose of storing data. You can also move those volumes between instances, which is really helpful. We're not going to do that for our demo today, but just know that it's available and you can add additional ones once the instances have been deployed. Networks, we have a network pre-built for this environment, and additionally, I'm going to let OpenCloud assign an IP address based on a range that I provided when this network was provisioned. This will come up a little bit, actually, just in just a few minutes here, but I'm not going to select an SSH key pair for this workload because I want to show you how easy it is with sysprepped gold master images to just enter a password and be good to go. But you can also deploy and manage SSH key pairs inside of OpenCloud, and you'll see that when I when I go down the road a little bit here. Last thing to do is name this bad boy. We'll just give it a test. You have the option of placing instances inside of groups. Groups are arbitrary and, as I mentioned, optional. These allow you to perform administrative functions on groups of instances. So you can power cycle them or destroy them. In groups that you define, not to be confused with affinity groups, which we're not going to dive into for today's demo, but they do exist. We'll put this in our Windows Server group, select US keyboard, and then finally have the option to either start the instance, which will kick off the process of allowing us to put in a password and be good to go, or we can also stay on this page and deploy more instances. But that's not the easiest way to deploy multiple instances. So we'll just start out by clicking launch. While this is spinning up, I want to talk a little bit about what makes up and defines an instance, which is why I have our little friend, the Windows Server over here. He's going to do a little bit of extra work as we continue with our demo. But when you click into an instance, when you dig down into one, you'll notice that you get a lot of information right away. On the left-hand side of this pane here, we learn what operating system is running, what its IP address is, the allocated resources based on that compute offering that we talked about, the amount of memory as well, which network it's attached to, which template it was built from, which can be really helpful when you are, maybe diagnosing an issue or, just maybe understanding your estate a little bit better. Where things came from can be important. Also, zone, account, and domain. Where does this live? And I want to take a moment to just, because I know that we're going to be talking about OpenCloud more throughout our demos, and you may have some curiosity about some foundational pieces. We're going to start with just a couple of definitions before we move on with our practical demonstration. Zones, as I mentioned, are clusters of OpenCloud resources, right? This is where we have deployed them. Right now, I mentioned Auburn Hills and Denver are online. More to come. The next kind of step of organization up are domains, and domains are just logical separations of accounts and resources into a customer unit. So each customer receives a domain, a root domain, and they have the option to deploy additional domains inside of that. So we could have actually subdomains underneath given domains, and those can be deployed by customers. The next step, and really the one that kind of answers the most questions for folks, is accounts. And these provide the most granular level of resource ownership and user permissions within a domain. So in accounts, what they own are things like users, instances, the volumes associated with those instances, networks, which we obviously need to have for communication, SSH key pairs, user data, which can be used in automation to provide additional information when deploying instances, especially with automation, and then templates. So basically everything that you use and work with inside of OpenCloud is owned by an account. That account is associated with a domain, which allows us to have multi-tenancy inside of our zones, which are the geographic deployments of resources. So anyways, boring lesson stuff out of the way. Let's open the console on that Windows server that we just deployed, because I just want to show, give an example of how quick and easy this is. We answer some brief information, agree to the license terms. Again, the license is baked in here. We're going to put in a super secret password. Don't tell anyone. It's definitely not password, because I wouldn't do that. And we are given a login screen. And we can log in. And so it is from our Gold Master templates, straightforward, quick, easy to deploy. But that kind of begs the question, deploying an instance, a singular instance is okay. There was a lot of clicking. I think I love the term ClickOps, right? That's fine for a one-off, maybe a workstation or a jump box that you're deploying for, just a quick run-up. But what if you want to deploy more than one instance, or you want to automate that process? And so we've got an additional demo today. If we look over in my command line, I've provided just a simple example using Terraform. It's going to spin up 3 Linux servers. So we named them, app, web, and DB. And these guys, there's not a whole lot to them, but I do want to note that they are going to be using the SSH key pair that I mentioned earlier. So I created this key pair inside of OpenCloud. And then with my templates, I am actually, going to select that key pair so that I can get access to those Windows, those Linux servers immediately. So let's just go ahead and build them. We'll see here that Terraform is going to give us a report on how quickly it's able to, deploy those instances. So we should, I think I was hitting about 10 to 15 seconds, 10 seconds right on the nose. We come back over into OpenCloud's web console. We will go up to instances, and we'll see that they're already deployed. If we go to the console for one of those instances, we'll see that we're already loading up. This can be, it's very fast. This can be a very quick process. Just for the sake of, again, showing, that we've kind of done our homework in advance, and that those SSH keys are functioning. I will go ahead and use PuTTY here, and we're going to get a prompt to accept the cert, which we'll do from that running workload, and then we'll be able to access it. Again, just spun up from scratch right away. There we go. Accept that prompt. Log in with the default user using that SSH key. And we're in. It's functioning, which is great. So we went from no workloads to 4 workloads really quickly. We were able to access them and we can get working. And obviously, I have provided just the bare minimum of what you can, I've scratched the surface, right, of what you can do using automation platforms like Terraform to use APIs to access OpenCloud and manage instances. So speaking of management, what else do we need to do? We need to clean up what we've done. So I am going to, first of all, just use Terraform here to tear down what we've built, just to show that it is just as quick and easy. This is taking about, I think, 20 seconds, just in the tests that I've done here over the past day or two. So we'll get a report from Terraform 10. 10 milliseconds, we'll actually be able to go over refresh, and we will see they're already gone. Okay. Normally I like to hop over and we'll see, the stopping process and then expunging, because it's a flag that I set in Terraform, and they're gone. And then manually, if I wanted to remove that instance, I could come over here to this same bar where we can view the console, perform lifecycle management. We can go ahead and destroy an instance here. Also select expunge. This completely removes the disks and all records of them, freeing up those resources again in case we needed to do something like reuse an IP. And we'll get messages that they are being deleted. While that is being destroyed, I just want to say, tasks like these, everything from logging in that you've seen me do today to deploying instances, whether it's complex or whether it's simple, you benefit from really good documentation. And that's the last thing that I just want to mention. We have, and when I say we, I mean the team at US Signal that built and maintains OpenCloud have done a phenomenal job, in building documentation that allows you to get information about logging in, creating instances, or use API calls to quickly and easily, set up your own automation, whether it's something, like CloudMonkey for quick API access, or doing something a little bit more complex like Terraform, or bringing tools that you already know and love. We have really focused on providing the best possible documentation that we can. So I hope that I have piqued your interest. We've got a lot more to talk about in our panel today, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, and we'll keep things moving along. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jim. While we're waiting for the share to come back my way, you've been out in the field helping a lot of customers transition to OpenCloud.
Mhm.
What's, and a lot of those customers have come from other environments. What's been, in your experience, the learning curve? What's that been like for engineers?
Smooth. Whether I'm doing a demo or providing folks with some hands-on time inside of the console, or helping them with standing up more automated tasks, they've just reported that they find the interface intuitive. They like the documentation. It's been good. It's been positive.
Nice. Nice. Well, hey, thanks for getting us exposed to the interface.
Sure.
Now that we've kind of seen it firsthand, let's further explore, some of the challenges that are solved with OpenCloud. So, Jim, you and I have worked together for how many years, you think?
Oh God. Well, let's just say well over 10 years. That I've got way more gray in my beard than I did when we first met. We'll say that.
Yeah, I may have had a little bit of hair as well. Um, Doubtful, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Hard to
yeah.
think back that long. I do actually remember, though, you and I worked very closely at the time. I believe you were in the TOC,
Hmm.
and I was out in the field selling VMware-based solutions to customers, trying to
Hmm.
drive cloud adoption. And it was a shift for them, both in a consumption model and in a management perspective as well, because vCloud is different than vCenter. And you and I spent a lot of time on the phone helping customers kind of acclimate to that new world. I think
Hmm.
that's important context because, one, it kind of provides some backdrop as to, our experiences in this field, our experiences specifically with US Signal and our infrastructure as a service offerings, but the customer experience as well. So, talk to me a little bit just about, thinking back on those experiences from a cloud offering standpoint, what has worked well for customers?
That's a Yeah, it's a great question. I would say the as a service model generally has worked well. US Signal specifically, no egress charges has been a big kind of driver for folks who want to have predictability in their monthly spends, right? On what can be a somewhat shifting, a buying model. US based support has been another big winner. Getting that locality and that personal relationship you can get both with sales and support team members. And then it is hard to overstate this, but our 100% SLA on compute availability has been a big differentiator.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think, what we've done with OpenCloud is we've maintained what did work, and we've improved on some of the things, that traditionally were a constraint for customers.
Mm-hmm.
From your experience again, Jim, I'm gonna ask,
Mm-hmm.
you gave us a good outline of what did work, what maybe didn't work so well.
Yeah, too expensive, right? Cost, especially with decisions that particular vendors have made, especially recently. It has made some of those solutions untenable moving forward. For folks, whether terrestrial or private cloud based. That goes hand in hand with what I would say is the next one, which is vendor lock-in. And then kind of the next two, you know, lack of self-service and limited API integration. Just having to buy resources in chunks, and I don't want to steal. My last one is just an outdated buying model. I'll put it that way. Just an outdated buying model.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of matches my experience in the field as well.
Mm.
Um, I think that's a good foray into what we set out to do, right? I already kind of explained that, what we were trying to do is have a mix of both the good and then improve on some of the things that were constraints. So in the spring of 2023, we set out on a mission to create a better cloud. We were intentional about the design. So again, just using what we had learned over the course of our 11-year history providing infrastructure as a service, table stakes like security and compliance. So all US Signal cloud solutions are audited annually by a third party to ensure that we have all the controls and policies in place to achieve HIPAA and PCI compliance standards. Another table stake, high availability. So these are cornerstones of the development and the design. But we wanted to deliver more than just a virtualization solution, right? And that is traditionally, what we focused on. And we wanted to sprinkle in some actual cloud capabilities, better performance. So performance is key not only for ensuring workloads perform and are available, it also translates directly to cost. And there's a concept we're going to talk about here a little bit later on. It's this performance to price concept. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Kind of an interesting little tweak on just understanding where your dollars are best spent in the cloud landscape. Um, and also from a performance standpoint, OpenCloud was the first time that we were delivering all flash storage under the hood. So kind of a neat progression of our storage capabilities as well through our partnership with Infinidat. More flexibility. One of the things that's great about public cloud, is the ability to have a mix of pay-as-you-go and committed resources. You heard in the keynote, that balance between perpetual workloads and ephemeral workloads. Totally agree. We see that on a day-to-day basis as well. So it's all about having the right cost efficiency as it relates to the workload for the business. Lower cost, plain and simple. Find a way to deliver all of this value at a lower price point with protection from unplanned and kind of hostile license increases. So, yeah, pretty tough bill of things to accomplish here.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I remember when this was the roadmap was kind of first being laid out. I remember thinking, I don't want to say I was skeptical, but I maybe I had questions, right? It was like it almost made too much sense, if that makes sense. Like I couldn't, I guess I couldn't believe that like one of the bigger outfits hadn't done it. I couldn't believe that like one of the big boys hadn't seen this need because it was, a kind of impaired. It was apparent to us intuitively, and then as folks like David launched really like targeted campaigns to get information from our customers, like it was clear that this was the need. So it's been really interesting. And whatever skepticism I've had, I couldn't be more pleased with kind of how things have turned out.
Yeah, for sure. As we were kind of talking about what to present and how to present it here,
Mm.
the concept of the Mythbusters series from the early 2000s came up.
Love that show,
Um,
man.
I know. And so, Jim and I are going to use that kind of as a backdrop. We're going to bust myths in these four areas because we feel like this is, kind of the cornerstone of the value proposition for OpenCloud.
Mhm.
So let's dive into these and let's start busting myths, Jim.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So meet OpenCloud. Let's talk, first about the intentionality of the design. Jim, you see this list of things on the screen. What stands out to you?
Everything, man. No, jokes. I mean, really everything. To be more specific, though, okay, like first up, enterprise grade hardware. Like it was an intentional choice for us to choose vendors like that would provide us with reliability, supportability, and long-term resilience. Like those were very intentional choices. And to build those relationships and to build that support, structure there. Choosing cloud stack. It's been talked about a number of times, and Rob did a great job in the intro just talking about like why orgs are selecting open source tooling, right? Choosing cloud stack, like that was a deliberate choice for an open, proven, and highly adaptable platform. We could build it into what we wanted to. David talked about that, like practical initiatives that we are bringing and we are turning into benefits for our customers, and we're able to do that because we've selected this platform. We're not waiting on anyone, which is huge. And that native Kubernetes support, I know there's going to be more conversation about this today. I teased a little bit of it, right? Being able to consume these resources in a modern way, with a modern approach is super important. I love the term table stakes. It was a non-starter. We had to go with that. That 100% SLA and compute resources, that has been one of those real big winners, for our customers, and it's a big differentiator between us and the public cloud, which again, this is not necessarily seen as competition to them, right? It's a right workload, what right workload for each environment, and open cloud is that right workload, especially for critical enterprise line of business apps that need that, guaranteed uptime, that can also help you control costs, right? But then self-service, we've already given a demonstration of it and how important that is. Um, Leveraging infrastructure as code, that kind of goes hand in hand with, being, Kubernetes container, ready. Same idea here, right? Consume the resources the way that makes the most sense. And then, choosing the locations that we did to roll out initially, uh, our Auburn Hills data center, and then being in Denver, being online in Denver allows us to cover a pretty broad swath of customers, and then we're going to deploy more, as we go, to both meet customer need, fill in gaps, and just be ready where folks want us to be and need us to be. That's intentionality.
That is very well said. So private cloud with public cloud capabilities. Um, I think, from an intentional design standpoint, Jim, that myth is busted.
Busted myth.
All right, let's move on to performance. So uh, we are going to run through kind of some performance benchmarking data here. So OpenCloud underwent a third-party performance benchmarking analysis by Cloud Mercado. That full report is actually available online. You can link to it through our website. But let's take a look at a few of the statistics here. So throughout the whole analysis, common benchmarking tools were used, and as you'll see, US Signal, OpenCloud performed very well in comparison to some of the titans in the industry. Here you see benchmarking of both single and multi-core CPU performance. So these were, aligned with all of the different instances across 7 different cloud providers. So general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, and where available, extended memory instances. Sysbench tool was used to measure CPU power and efficiency by subjecting those CPUs to a series of computationally demanding tasks. And again, you see OpenCloud performed very well in that analysis. In the storage department, so this is our all-flash InfiniDAT array. Again, performed very well across the sample set. And this analysis actually points to that price to performance ratio that I mentioned earlier. Jim, help the audience here understand, from your perspective as an architect in the field,
Mhm.
having managed workloads yourself in a variety of different cloud environments, having assisted customers transitioning to different kind of multi-cloud or hybrid cloud approaches. Why should we be concerned with this concept of price to performance ratio?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it really comes down to, enterprises who've migrated to public cloud, especially via like lift and shift migrations, where you're just picking up instances and, moving them into public cloud, often find that, in practical day-to-day life and performance, they wind up needing to increase the resources allocated to those workloads to get them to perform as expected, or to perform comparatively to the environments that they, the terrestrial, self-hosted environments that they often come from. This ratchets the price up, especially when this is kind of an aggregate increase across an entire estate of workloads. By providing and what I'll say is, Jeff actually talked about this earlier, and I thought he did a great job, speaking about kind of repatriation, and because that's a topic that comes up a lot when we're talking about, open cloud. As we were launching this, the environment that it's coming into the world is one in which a lot of organizations are looking to repatriate workloads, oftentimes with the hope of reducing cost. Well, the key to that is you got to be able to meet performance expectations. And if you can do that while keeping those instance sizes smaller, you are going to reduce cost. Price to performance ratio directly impacts cost.
Yeah, excellent job. I think a combination of that concept with some of the data that we've presented here, I'm going to declare that performance myth busted as well.
Ooh, look at that.
All right, let's talk about flexibility.
Yeah.
I think this is a key difference in the private cloud market. So we can we can actually offer customers a couple different consumption models. So, stay month to month, that pay as you go model, no requirement for committing those resources across the term and the dollars associated with those resources. Going back to some of the entry presentations, perfect use case for ephemeral workloads, or
Mhm.
just workloads that we may not know are going to be perpetual over time. And then term contracts, those are our workloads we know are going to be around for a while. We get the benefit of committing those over a term for a percent reduction off of the month-to-month cost. So, again, just kind of really given that blend of uncommitted and committed resources. And Jim, I think that's a key difference. As it relates to some of the other offerings available for private cloud.
Yeah, actually earlier I used the phrase antiquated buying model to describe, how our IaaS buying looked under other models earlier. I have my own opinions, but I'm curious to hear kind of what comes to mind for you when you hear me say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's you know if we take a step back and we kind of look at how organizations have traditionally consumed technology, it's in that capital expenditure model, right? Where you're planning for 3 to 5 years of growth. You got to understand what you need now, but what you're going to need in the future. So that was kind of, I guess, iteration one of that buying cycle. And then, with virtualization as a service, we
Mhm.
kind of just pivoted into also trying to plan for 3 to 5 years and terming those resources for that same commitment. It provided an immediate benefit in reduction of operational burden, but still constrained organizations. As
Mhm.
to where now, if we kind of use that antiquated buying model versus a more modern buying model, OpenCloud, and the flexible consumption nature of it really puts customers in a more advantageous posture to have that cost efficiency and flexibility to not have to plan for 3 to 5 years. Let's balance what we do need to term and
Mhm.
commit to, and still maintain flexibility to move other workloads in and out. So a more iterative consumption model is what I would point to, Jim.
Yeah, and speaking of that iteration, I mean, customers can increase their commitment iteratively, right? But they do it coterminous to their contract, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Pat, may I do the honors this time? I
Yeah, yeah,
believe
go
that is
for
I believe that is the flexibility myth busted. Thank you.
it. I would agree. All right. So our last kind of myth to bust here is cost. But instead of taking the word from Jim and I, let's let's give you the opportunity to kind of analyze your own workloads yourself. So I'm going to get you introduced here to the US Signal Cloud Cost Comparison Calculator. So this is available out on our website. Allows you to compare costs across AWS, Azure, VMware service providers, and obviously US Signal OpenCloud. So you've got three different file types that you could use here to upload your inventory. Traditional RV tools export from VMware environments, or if you only have OS level access in your cloud environment, you can grab a live optics tool report, and then obviously the Nutanix collector as well. So let's see how this works. I'm just going to pop in here. I'm going to use an example file. You can see that I've pointed it to the example file. Click calculate pricing. This happens actually very quickly. It's going to spit out uh, a rundown of what is being analyzed from an inventory standpoint. Give it a second here, and you can see successfully processed 31 VMs. The analysis does default to a pay-as-you-go comparison to major hyperscalers and VMware Service Cloud providers, but you do have the ability to change this. You can see just even on a month-to-month basis, significant savings with US Signal. If you start looking at termed, even more significant savings. Definitely an opportunity here to save costs. Never in my career have been able to sell based on a pricing advantage. So this is kind of refreshing and interesting from that standpoint. Earlier during the demo, Jim also talked about the different uh, instance catalogs that are available within OpenCloud. And here you can see we break it down on a server by server basis. You've got your existing CPU, memory, storage, OS type, and then mapping that to AWS instance and cost, Azure instance and cost, OpenCloud instance and cost, and then what we know about VMware Cloud provider costs, spending over 11 years in that space. So very compelling data. Like I said, don't take our word for it. Go out there, run the report for yourself. Allows you to download a copy of this as well. And I'll show you how nice this looks. Great little one pager for you to kind of share with your team, maybe your executive team. Be the hero, put on a cape, show them how much savings are available with a possible change to OpenCloud, or just in general integrating OpenCloud into your hybrid and multi-cloud strategies. So with that, I will also declare the cost myth busted. And let's move on to our wrap up, Jim, because I think we're getting close on time. Here's a recap of the myths, that we've busted. We just covered costs. This is a huge driver, for OpenCloud use cases. We talked about the intentionality of the design, reviewed the consumption options, and of course, Jim demonstrated the self-service capabilities and modern DevOps integration. This isn't all you're going to hear about OpenCloud this week. In fact, there's some other things going on today. Don't miss Taylor Greiner's presentation. Very talented professional. Always learn something when we hear Taylor speak. David Winans is going to be discussing future of compute tomorrow. That's going to be a really neat presentation. And then also, up next we got John Hine covering multi-tenant cloud with Nutanix. Call to action for this group: go model your workloads in the calculator. It's out there from our website. Get us on your calendar. We just scratched the surface today. Let's do a deep dive into OpenCloud. Let's talk specifically about what your use case is and how we can best support you. And last but not least, we've got the option for a test drive if you're so inclined, and we can support you in that as well. And just of note, if you hadn't seen this yet, if you attend 3 of the live sessions, you'll be entered to win some pretty cool prizes. So definitely some external motivation. I think the marketing team, hit it out of the park with their approach here. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of good content. Super exciting, to be able to share some of this stuff with our partners, our peers, the field. So definitely tune in, and appreciate the time, Jim. As always, man, excellent job. Thanks for the support.
Always. Thanks, Pat. Thank you.